It doesn't happen right away. It's a long game. Leadership is never ending. You will always be on that journey till the day you die. Chad Peterman here, and you are listening to Can't Stop the Growth, a platform for leaders and teams to grow and thrive. We highlight the importance of personal development, pursuing greatness, and always chasing your potential. Let's get into it. Today I want to talk about, and one thing that I've been really, myself really studying, what is going to be our foundation for being successful next year? Because it's my belief that whatever the world decides to bring us, none of us know. We can only make our best guess. However, the one thing that I feel that if we over-index in, we will have no choice, we'll have no option but to be successful. And all of that revolves around influence. So you've heard me talk about it before. I feel like I've been talking about it more and more. And a lot of that, if you hear me talking about something, it's probably because I'm looking into it myself and figuring out what does increasing even my own influence look like. And so today, I've got really 5 foundations of influence. And I'm going to go into what does influence mean? There's a bunch of different things. You've got the social media world with influencers and all of this stuff. But what does it truly mean? What is that? And not only what is it, but how in the hell do I do it? I don't know how to influence anybody, right? And so I want to kind of break that down and hopefully give you a better understanding of what that truly means. The great thing about influence is it involves very little skill, right? I didn't go to school to do what I do today. In order to be a leader, there's no class for that. So how do we develop leadership? If we all agree that it's one of the most important things that we have at our disposal in our careers, then how do we learn it? How do we understand the impact that it can have? And so I think the first step is understanding that there is no skill. We don't hire leaders because they've got a resume full of leadership credentials. I've actually never done that. So how does someone go about creating influence? The 5 things that I'm going to talk about today, you can do today. Literally, you just have to make the choice to do it. You don't need any training. You don't need any skill building. You don't need anything, really, which is great. I think leadership can sometimes be intimidating. How am I ever going to lead people? Are they ever going to listen to me? I think I've got a lot to share, but, how are they going to respond to me? And so there's a lot of talk. There's actually a book written on it that I've read and really like, but, it talks about the difference between a manager and a leader, right? Manager's there for accountability, process, procedure, all of these things. After studying it enough, it's my belief that you cannot be an effective manager of people until you're an effective leader of people. Because you can't hold people accountable that don't trust you, that don't think you care about them. It's very hard. If any of you would like to follow someone that you don't trust and you don't care, and that doesn't care about you, well, we need to talk because that's no way to live. And so a lot of building influence is focusing on the right things. If as a manager, even as a individual contributor or a field professional or whatever your role is now, if all you do is focus on the results, you're going to struggle because focusing on the result is not going to get you there. And only focusing on that is like crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's not an effective recipe. So, if we agree that focusing on the result is not going to get us there, then what in the hell do we focus on? What do we lean into in order to get that result? And it's my belief that what we lean into is influence. How do I influence my team to the best of my ability every single day, every hour of every day, in order for them to be successful? Because at the end of the day, if I influence them, more than likely, we're going to achieve that result. And even if you don't achieve that result, let's say you come up short, you're still going to be in a hell of a lot better place than you were before. So as we look at the 5 foundations of influence, so these are all things just to think about as you look to create more influence in your life. The first one, it's one of our values, lead yourself. Lead with integrity. So integrity is kind of a big word, right? What is integrity? Well, I've always thought integrity is do what you say. You know, if you say something, if you believe in something, then by God, you better do it. Because if you don't, well, you don't have a whole lot of integrity. That's where you build trust. Exhibit the characteristics that you know that you want on your team. If you know that for your team to be successful, they need to do X, Y, and Z, but you're not willing to do X, Y, and Z, how much influence do you think you have? It's very little. Because no one is going to do something that you don't do yourself. People want to know they can trust you, you're committed to whatever it is that you're doing, and you care about them. So if leading with integrity is really over-indexing in the care for your team, what do you get? So how do we essentially match what we say we believe in with what we actually do? So here's a few examples. There's a reason that I get up early. It's not because I like to. But if I showed up here every day at 10 a.m., how many people you think would want to follow me? I mean, some may. But I get up early because, well, that's what I want my people to do. I want to be ready for the day. Thank you notes. I'll write over 1,200 thank you notes this year. Why? Seems simple, right? Like, how is this going to play any role in our success? It's my belief that if the people on my team know that I give a shit, more than likely they're going to show up and do a good job. Are we going to need help? Are we going to improve? Are we going to need to fix things? Are problems going to arise? Yeah, absolutely. But if my team doesn't know that I care, what is their willingness level going to look like to help me solve problems? And so it's all of those things. Are you, as a leader, leaning into your own integrity? Are you doing the things currently? Are you leading yourself so that your team has an example to follow? You know, we all look up to role models and mentors and different stuff like that. Why is that? Well, most often it's because we know that they're committed to what it is that they're doing. That's why we look up to them in the first place. And when someone reaches out and helps you, well, you know that they care. If you're always leading with integrity, if you're always setting the example for your team, you're going to win. Because there's no other option. If everybody's moving in the same direction and doing the things that they need to be successful, things are going to happen. But what we really need is we need to care more. There's a Post-it note on my desk that as I was preparing for this and I was talking to a group, it just says over-index in care. Because when times get tough or there's things that we can't control, so long as we know that we care about each other, we're going to be just fine. It's that simple. So where can you improve your process to hopefully influence others to improve theirs? Think about it. As you write down your goals, you may have a goal, but truly your integrity is measured by the steps that you have control over that are going to help you reach that goal. and you do those things every single day, you're going to find people are following you. The next piece is empowerment. So the biggest thing as a leader that we are tasked with, and again, this is literally regardless of position, because you can empower people in a bunch of different ways. But at the end of the day, and what I tell all leaders, the hardest transition that's there is you're no longer able to do the work. Now, that's not to say you can't help somebody, but what that's to say is over time, that should be less and less. Over time, you should be able to ask them, what is the answer? How would you solve this problem? What do you think? Because until you do that, you're not really leading anybody, and you're definitely not influencing anybody. And sometimes it's a process, right? We get a lot of new people into the trade that are going to have a lot of questions, and that's okay. And it's okay to help them through things. I'm not saying stop answering your phone, but what I'm saying is, can you provide that advice in the moment, but also be aware that the next time that person calls, I'm going to ask them how they would fix it, rather than just giving them the answer. What you'll find is oftentimes they already have the answer, but it's more comfortable to call you, who they know has the answer, to give it to them, right? So one of the things that I would focus on as we move into this year is the difference between being a firefighter and a fire preventer. And ultimately, that's what empowerment is, right? It's, are you continually fighting fires, or are you working to prevent them? You know, one of the things that we often have when you have a meeting and your phone never stops ringing, right? I remember the days. Everybody's got something, and, you're doing all this, and, your phone's just ringing off the hook. That's okay. It's part of it, right? But how can we work to empower others? So one of the things that I would suggest is to log your calls. Because what you'll find is you're getting a lot of calls from the same people. And rather than just continually having that person call for months on end, what would it look like if you brought them in and talked to them and showed them how many times they've actually called you and what they called you about, and went over, hey man, I really think you could get better at these things. Like, you know the answer to this. Oh yeah, I'm good on that. Well, what about this are you struggling with? Well, I just need a little, okay, well, let's talk through it. That way you know the answer next time. Empowerment is nurturing with care. We want people to grow and develop. Because at the end of the day, if we give them all of the answers, we're going to ultimately stunt their growth. Because there's no reason to grow. There's no reason to get better. But a lot of times it's going to take having that sit-down conversation with somebody and saying, hey man, you're giving me a lot of calls, which I appreciate. I'm here to help. I want to help. But what do we need to get you some support in so that you don't have to do this? I want you to feel empowered that you know the answer. And unfortunately, empowerment is going to come with people making some mistakes. People doing some wrong thing. I tried this. It didn't work. All right. Well, you know better. Let's work through this. All right. Where did you take a wrong step? But until they try, until they're empowered to do so, you're going to see very little growth in your team. Because at the end of the day, the goal should be to empower the people on your team to the point where you're sitting there going, a lot of my time used to be taken up by getting all these questions answered and fighting all these fires. And now, instead of fighting fires, I'm working to remove obstacles. And there's a key difference in there. An obstacle is something within the process or something within the procedure that's broke, or it's just not as good as it should be, or looking at it from a different perspective will provide new insight. As a leader, your job is to remove obstacles. I don't know all the answers, but what I do know is that if there is an issue, if something is broke, we're going to talk through it and we're going to figure it out. And when you come from that perspective, you break down a lot of walls. And you have to break down walls if you're ever going to empower somebody. Empower your team. Empower yourself. The third key is ownership over everything. If you have not apologized to your team probably multiple times a week, start doing it. I've apologized more in the last month than I think I have all year. Why? Because I own it. Again, it's just a willingness to take the ownership. Hey, we screwed this up, but we're going to fix it. I need your feedback. We're working on some things. We're going to get this figured out. If you consistently find yourself never admitting you're wrong, I got some bad news. You're wrong a hell of a lot more than you think you are. And guess what? That's okay. But it's only okay if you admit it. When you find out what issues, what obstacles you need to remove for your team, hey, I really apologize. I probably should have seen that. Or hey, frankly, if you've got a why or I don't understand question, that's on me. So I told the teams the other day, if you don't understand this, then that's my responsibility. Now, yeah, I don't run the department, but at the end of the day, I put someone in place to run it, and maybe they don't know why. So we got to figure that out. As I've said, when you own everything, you don't have to worry about anything on the outside because you're in complete control of your success. You have to take ownership. It is the hardest thing to do because we're not wired like that. It is much easier to blame someone else than to take ownership of it. Where in your life are you refusing to take ownership? I will tell you, it's getting in the way of you getting to that next level, of you growing, of you becoming more successful. Number 4 is something I've talked about a little bit already. And in order to gain influence, you have to be willing to listen. You've got to be willing to listen and communicate. Listening's hard because you have to give up control. When you're listening, the other person has the control, right? They're talking. But the only way to solve problems, the only way to create influence is to listen. When you listen and then over-communicate, people understand that you're committed and that you care about what they have to say because you don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I've got ideas and opinions, but I don't have all the answers. So when we listen to our people, when we find out what is preventing them from being successful, guess what? We can do our job and remove those things. Are you listening to your people? When's the last time you listened to them? And then the key is, once you listen to them, then act. Then go do something about it. Because there's nothing worse than saying you're listening and then not doing anything about it. That's a great way to build distrust in your team. The best way to test whether a person can lead rather than manage is to ask them to create positive change. Think about this. Take some time today. Where have I created positive change with the people that I lead? A leader usually has people that follow them, and if you don't care, the likelihood of them following is going to be slim and none. So where can you bring positive change? How great would it be if you sat down with each person on your team and found out what they really care about? What are they trying to do? Why do they wake up in the morning? What are their goals? Can you help them get there? How much trust and care would be present if you had a conversation like that with people on your team? Doesn't even have to be about the job that they do. Just sit down and understand what is it that they want to do. And then letting them know, I want to help you do that. What should we do? Well, I need to do this, and I need to do that, and I need to do that. Okay, well, would you like me to hold you accountable to those things? I guess, yeah. I mean, I can't really say no, right? Again, give them permission to lead their own lives, to push forward in their own endeavors. You know, I was interviewing a good buddy of mine earlier this week. It'll probably come out in January or something like that. But been a friend of mine for 5-6 years, owns a book publishing company. It's actually the company I've used to publish my first book, and then I've got my second one coming out here in February. And he's the one who taught me this, is that you have to understand what it is that your people truly want to do. Because they didn't show up to work to serve you every day. Like, I feel like we got a good relationship, but if you told me I am rip-raring to show up and just do whatever you want me to do today, that'd be really weird, okay? You showed up because you have dreams and aspirations, and you feel like this is the place that is going to support that best. But we got to know, and you've got to know from the people that you lead, what is it, or how can we support them better to achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve? Yes, there's a part of it that they want to do a good job and they want to build something really cool, and that's awesome. And I appreciate that. I'm eternally grateful for that. But at the same time, I'm not naive to think that you don't have your own stuff, right? I hope you do. If you don't, let's talk. Let's figure out some stuff. And that's truly what we're creating. But we have to listen. And we've got to communicate. When people are confused or they don't know the answer, guess what? They make up their own stories, right? No one's ever heard of that, I would assume. You know, no one's ever heard of a rumor. The more actually we communicate, the less we can fill that void with a bunch of junk, and we can fill it with really good stuff. Like, oh shit, I know what we're doing. Let's roll. The last piece of this is the thing that you have the most control over. The people in this organization that have the most influence over me are people with this fifth quality. And that's a positive attitude. Sounds simple, right? But the people in this organization that are solving problems, that are figuring things out, that are moving this company forward, have great attitudes. They come to work excited. They come to work to help other people. They come to work because they want to make an impact. They want to spread their influence. What's stopping you from that? A positive attitude, if you want to continue to grow in this company, if you want to continue to grow on your own personal journey, if you want to go on the vacation of your dreams, if you want to buy a new car, a boat, a house, whatever it is, you will draw closer with a positive attitude as opposed to a negative one. I mean, even think about the words. Yeah, I'm really excited about my future and success, and my negative attitude is just going to take me there. It's interesting. Good luck. Let me know how that goes. But it's a lot more fun to be in a good place. Who do you think is going to follow you with a negative attitude? Not many. They may because they have to, but your influence is going to be little to non-existent. A positive attitude. It's the last one we talked about, but it really starts with that. Because when you have a positive attitude, it's a lot easier to own things. Screw it up. Let's fix it. Who do we need to talk to? What's this look like? Yeah, positive attitude. Yeah, I'd love to sit down and listen to all the issues that we have in our department. Because guess what? By golly, we're going to fix them. What's so hard about that? You're actually never going to fix them if you go into it with a negative attitude. I don't want to ask because I know there's some problems. Well, that's a great plan. No. Where are you having influence? Where can you generate it? There again, there's some people that are like, well, I don't want to be a leader or anything like that. Well, guess what? You are. Doesn't matter what your position is. Doesn't matter what you're doing. creating influence is the way to get what it is that you want. You're going to need other people. And if you have zero influence, if you're not interested in creating influence, you're going to have to do it all yourself. And likely you ain't got all the answers. But if I'm not focused on building my influence and creating a place, guess what? I'm never going to get what I want. Can't do it. Not a whole lot of successful companies are built with one person. I mean, good for them. I haven't figured that one out yet. And I think it's maybe more fun and a lot easier to do it with people that you like. So if that is the case, again, back to what we talked about at the beginning, as a leader, you can't do the work. So the only tool that you essentially have in your tool bag is influence. That's all you got. And it's all in your control. Isn't this great? You have complete control over whatever it is that you want to do. And some of you are probably saying, well, I can't do that. I can't do that. Guess what? Other people do. And the more you create influence, the more you will find what you need to accomplish your goals. The more you put it out into the world, the more people you will find. Find that influence. Understand that it's not that hard. It's just a willingness to do it. Just like I always say about this business. This business, super simple. Is it easy? No. It's not easy. It's not easy because we're not wired like that. We're not wired to focus on the things that we can control. And as so long as we know that, that's front and center, you know that's the hurdle you got to jump over, lean into it. Writing thank you notes in the morning, trust me, every morning I sit down at my desk, write to the kids, and then it's thank you note time. And I can tell you that there is a strong pull within my body to do something else. Every morning, there is a strong pull to turn to my computer and go do something else. Because there's like 14 things rattling around in my head that I want to get done, that I know is going to move this thing forward. Why is that? Because I'm going to get instant gratification. I'm going to get something done. I'm going to get something accomplished. And a thank you note, like it's going to take 3 days for them to even get it in their mailbox. How is this going to move it forward? But I know that it's important. I know that I need to do it. And so I do it. And you know when you will find those activities that create influence? Because you won't want to do them. It's a good barometer, right? Write them down and then know that every time you go, you're not going to want to do it. And when you know that you're not going to want to do it anyway. And it'll become easier over time. Again, it's super simple, but it's not easy. But the more influence you create, the more you will gain. Because you're going to need other people. Fact of life. You're going to need other people. As you move into next year, how do you build your influence? Where can you start? What can you do? You know what to do. I just gave you a couple things to do. You know how to do it. So lean into it. And success will find you. You don't have to go searching for it. It will find you. I could sit up here for 3 hours and tell you about the times where my influence didn't pay off in the moment, but way down the line, it was like, oh shit. I'm glad I was like really nice to that person and thanked them and said all of these, helped them when I needed to. A lot of people ask me like, why do you help so many people? Well, because there will be a time, it's not like I'm like counting down the days, but like the more good we put out into this world, the more we get back. It doesn't happen right away. It's a long game. Leadership is never ending. You will always be on that journey till the day you die. My goal is to be like 105 and still be like leading. So again, as we wrap up, it's super simple. It's not easy. Lean in to listening to your people. find out what obstacles they have, prevent fires, don't fight them. It will take time, and empower your people to be at their best. The more you do of that, you over-index in that, use these first 3 months to just pour in to your people, you won't have to worry about a damn thing. You're going to be coming to me going, this team pretty much runs itself. Okay, cool. Now we can work on more projects to make their life even easier and to make us even better. Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to get connected, you can find me at chadmpeterman.com. To see what our team's up to, you can visit petermanbros.com. As always, keep growing out there.